Oh my God, we're live. What's up to all our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Mother Living Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop and the Secret of the Ancient MacGuffin podcast, episode 34, a show where we talk about movies and TVs and comics and scrolls.
Yeah, we're gonna hit that.
We're gonna hit that and the other things that scratch your nerdy itch. Speaking of hitting that, we're coming to you live from the now rebranded Yunk Junk HQ. Junk Junk. Yeah, how's that go? Junk Junk. There it is. A bomb ass podcasting production space in Philadelphia, PA. I'm your digitally aged up host, Johnny Destructo of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street, a super rad comic shop which caters to nerdy and nerd adjacent individuals like yourself. With me tonight is Len.
What's up?
And Noel.
So I would like to just mention one thing about the newly branded Yunk Junk.
Young Junk. I'm sorry.
Yunk Junk HQ. So the Man Yunk, which is where we are.
Yeah.
The actual like original pronunciation is Man Junk.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Look
it's
it up.
It's not Man Junk.
Man Junk. It's like a soft N to J, like Man Junk.
Oh.
So it's Junk.
Junk. Also
Junk.
in the booth is our trusty producer, Dylan the Great. Can they hear you or can they see you? Or
Dylan!
Oh, good.
He said
They don't-
hello.
Yeah, I guess.
Huzzah, Dylan!
Before we get into tonight's discussion, we'd like to thank you all for hanging out with us and chatting and liking and commenting and subscribing and ringing the bell notification, Johnski. And email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com like nobody did this week.
Ah, it's fine.
And it hurts my feelings. I am a very sensitive sort.
Doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I don't need you.
This episode is brought to you by
But I want you.
mimosas.
You could say anything. No one can see what's in the bottle. So it's brought
It's
to
mimosas.
you by the blood of the innocent, and it's just
Oh, yeah. You don't know that this is the Grail.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, first off the bat, we're going to talk about what we've been up to this week in a segment I like to call "What You Been Up To This Week."
Huh?
I'm going to start off with Len
Yes.
by asking him,
Yes.
"What you been up to this week?" Huh?
Well, this week I finished a series and I started another one.
Oh shit.
So the series that I finished was the second season of The Bear on FX on Hulu, which is an excellent series. Talks about just the life of these people that are running this restaurant. The first season dealt with the young guy going home, the bear, the title
The
character.
aforementioned, the titular.
Right. Played by, what's the gentleman from Shameless? Jeremy Allen
white.
White. Yes.
Lip.
Yeah, Lip from Shameless.
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is basically Lip grown up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because he's definitely a tortured genius.
Yeah.
So the first season dealt with him going back home, dealing with dysfunctional in Chicago.
Okay.
Dealing with some dysfunctional relationships with his family, as well as kind of like trying to take over his older brother's kind of like roast beef shop.
Gotcha.
Right. And build that up. And he's has been a successful restaurateur, restaurant chef. And now this season is all about it's changing over that shop into a full restaurant
Right.
called Bear
Gotcha.
after him. And this season really starts to expound more on the cast. You leave the shop a little bit to delve into their lives, their backstory. It definitely has a bit of the same vibe as Atlanta, which makes sense because Haru Mari is one of the co-producers.
Right.
He was one of the producers on Atlanta.
I wrote a lot of those episodes.
Yes. I wrote and directed a lot of them. But what happened with this show, though, is that unlike Atlanta, which definitely dipped into the surreal,
Yeah.
and then sometimes would even have episodes that had nothing to do
Nothing at all
with Atlanta
Yeah.
or any of the people
Yeah,
on the show.
yeah.
This show is 100% about this world, about this cast, about these people, about their foibles, about their lives. And while I think it is a show that probably bills itself as a situational comedy or a comedy,
Yeah.
It definitely lives in that dramedy world.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely amazing. And there is an episode that I was telling you about the other day. There's an episode that takes place 4 years prior to where we are now, in this world, that is a Christmas episode, a Christmas family dinner, which is basically an all-star Christmas. This is like they blew their budget because this is where you really meet everybody in the family, and it's Academy Award winning Jamie Lee Curtis. It's John Barenthal. It's Sarah Paulson. It's John Mulaney. It's Bob Odenkirk. I mean, it's like everybody in there. But it's such a great episode of television, and as good as it is, it's like episode 7 or 8,
6 or 7. Yeah, because I've not been watching this. We only watched like the first 2 episodes, but gonna watch all of it. And all of my social feeds are talking about the 7 Fishes episode, which is the Christmas episode.
Yeah,
the Feast of the 7 Fishes, if anybody doesn't know, is like a traditional Italian Christmas dinner.
I did not.
Christmas Eve, feast, 7 fishes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a great series. I really enjoyed it.
This episode in the new season or the previous season? It's a brand new.
It's in this new season.
Word.
It's in this new season.
Nice.
And then the series that I started was on Apple TV, which is Hijack.
Yep.
Starring one Idris Elba.
Love that man.
And I will give away the premise of the show because it's in the title.
Right.
Idris Elba is on a plane and it gets hijacked. That's the premise of the show. But he's on a plane that is on a 7-hour flight. I think it's going from Dubai to England. So it's a 7-hour flight. And each episode, because it's going to be 7 episodes this season, is an hour on the plane.
That's what I figured.
And it's all about how he deals with. It's all about how this disembodied white hand came and turned the mic. It's all about how he deals with this hijack situation, because he is a man, as you would expect, with a certain set of skills. But they're not the skills you think he has.
He's a chef.
No.
He makes roast beef sandwiches.
He's a stand-up comedian, distracts everyone.
Yeah.
He's a cartoonist.
Yeah.
Nah.
I would love to see Idris Elba's tight 10.
He's you know what?
Trying to do a stand-up set.
He pulled from real life, and he's actually a DJ.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a very, Apple TV, none of their shows look bad. So it's a great looking show.
Shows, yeah.
And it's not high on action. It has some bit actions, but it's more the tension
of course.
of the moment.
Yeah, I hope it's not a 7-hour flight of fighting.
Yeah, that would make
nonstop
absolutely no
fisticuffs.
sense. There's only 3 episodes out so far. I haven't watched the 3rd one yet, but it's really good. I'm enjoying it.
They're like
I want to start
long.
Yeah, about an hour long. Yeah.
Sounds like 24 on a plane.
It does, but starring someone I want to watch.
Nothing wrong with Keith Sutherland.
There's nothing wrong with Keith Sutherland. I just watched the first season and I was like, I'm good with this. Yeah. But Noel, what have you been watching this week, huh?
I did a full rewatch of all of the Indiana Jones movies, so I have nothing new to report.
Liar.
Other than what I've read this week.
Oh, fuck off.
Which was a book called Night Fever.
Night Fever.
I knew it.
Fever.
I knew it was coming.
Written by Ed Brubaker with art by Sean Phillips.
Ooh, that's like they dip into horror.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
No, not
this one?
No, maybe
Okay.
not. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. So
they've done a ton of books together.
yes, they've done 1,000 books together. They decided to take a break from Reckless. They did 5 Reckless books, which are phenomenal. And then this is not connected to Reckless or Criminal or Pulp or anything else they've ever done. It is a new standalone story, basically about a editor who works for a large publishing firm in the late 70s, early 80s, going to France for a convention, like a publishing convention. which is something they never really explain because does anybody even remember how publishing used to work, where you had to actually sell books?
I do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's very they don't explain what the process used to be like, where you have to travel around the world and sell the European rights or whatever rights for a specific book. You know, like Simon and Schuster would travel around the world with their salesmen to try and like sell books to foreign markets.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a guy that does that.
Oh.
He's
now. Do you know that because the book told you that, or did you just know that?
I know that, but the book did tell me that he does this and he's on his way to France.
Oh, great. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And then he's at a convention the whole book, and you're wondering what the convention's for.
Gotcha.
You just have to like pick up on it. But he gets into some shit in France, much like a lot of the protagonists of Ed Brubaker's books. He's probably like mid to late 40s and questioning his life. He's in midlife crisis and decides to chop shit up.
Okay.
And it gets really, really wild, and then it just ends.
Oh, is it the first of?
Nope.
Yeah, because it's just one complete story.
It?
You said, yeah.
It gets really wild, and then it just ends.
Oh,
It
neat.
gets wild to the point of like you're questioning your narrator altogether, and then it just ends.
Oh, is this a good review or a bad review?
I don't know yet.
I can. Okay.
It definitely kind of threw me for a loop. Because most of their work usually is this kind of cinema verite, life, and they usually don't have. Their books aren't formulaic. They usually aren't. It's just like they go at their own pace, but they almost always loop back around and make you kind of like click or or like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This just ends.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's a gorgeous book.
Oh, they're always gorgeous books.
Yeah.
So like,
I
if
love the
this
coloring.
is my response to this has nothing to do with like how good or bad this book is. It's just the fact that they literally never miss, and a near miss feels like a tragedy.
Right.
Literally never miss. So I would love to talk about it with somebody because all the pieces are there. It's fascinating, and then all of a sudden it just kind of ends. It to the point where I was like, "Oh shit, what's gonna happen?" 4 black pages, and then notes at the end. I'm like, "Oh,
wow,
okay,
interesting."
I went back and reread the last page just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah.
I mean, we could always do it for the show. You could always make us read it.
If you want to.
Okay.
Well,
we put it out there.
Yeah.
Yes, let's review this for the show.
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, I love that.
Sure.
That's the enthusiasm I like. Robert Monroe Jr. is in the chat saying, "What's up, Cult Poppers?" Whoa, we're telling you what's up, Robert. We're telling you what's up right now.
Hey, JD. I forgot what I was going to ask you.
Oh.
I got a question for him.
Oh, shit. Is it the same one as mine?
Perhaps.
Okay, you go first.
What you been up to? Huh?
No, I was going to ask him what his favorite cologne is.
Oh, I don't wear cologne. I only wear Old Spice Swagger. Well, I don't have it on right now. JD has been up to Secret Invasion Omnibus. So last week we were talking about the Secret Invasion show as well as the trade paperback. Thank you. And I was lamenting, man, there is an omnibus. You weren't here for this. There was an omnibus, and I never picked it up. And I regret that decision. I should have grabbed it when I had the chance. And but then you were telling me like, even if you had it, like the whole story's in there, but it's all it's not. None of it's in order, right? So they have like just the 8 issues of the main story, and then all the other stuff is in there, but it's not in like a chronologically published order.
That's
a way that you read it,
exactly,
which should never happen. And then I went home and I was like, man, I sure do wish I had that omnibus. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. And I walked over to my omnibus shelf, and sure enough, there it was. I had a open reader copy just sitting there. I must have gotten it like 2 years ago during the pandemic or whatever. And just kind of put it aside and never got to it.
It's like the Pee-wee's Playhouse word of the, pandemic.
Hey! So first of all, Noel was right. There is a little bit before
Can we isolate that sound clip?
Noel was right.
Noel was right. One more time, cleanly though. Nobody's here.
Secret Invasion 1 through 8 is in its own little chunk.
Mhm.
And then there's some stuff before it
Okay.
and stuff after it. And I was like, oh, this is actually in order. Look at that. No, it's not. So I actually had to go to like, I think Slash Film actually had a here's how you read in Secret Invasion.
That's interesting. Wow.
And so I was there with tiny Post-it notes, cutting them with my scissors and numbering them 1 to 34 or 37, because that's how many issues are in this omnibus. And then I would sit there and I'd go flip, 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 flip. Okay, 1. All right. And then, okay, part 2 is flip, 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 flip. Flip, 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 flip. Okay, here's 2. And then bap, 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 bap. Here's 3. It took me like a good half hour, 45 minutes just to figure out the reading order of this book.
And how do you like it now?
It is so good. It is so good. My take on Secret Invasion, the trade paperback, was this does not read well by itself.
Mm-hmm.
You actually need some of the other stuff around it for context and for certain plot threads to reach their conclusion, stuff like that. So I've been reading it, and I'm over halfway done the whole omnibus, and it is so good. It's so delightful. It's so fun. It's really taking me back to that whole era of Marvel with Brian Michael Bendis kind of running everything with Civil War and Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, etc. And I'm just having a blast.
You know, I'm glad you're loving it, because that literally was my experience while getting each individual issue over the course of like the 6 or 7 months that it came out.
Yeah, because I was reading it that way too. I was reading it as it was coming out.
Well, like all the Avengers issues in between, and like
Mighty Avengers, New Avengers.
It's so funny. Like currently I think we were both on the same thread on Twitter of like Bendis still gets hate for that shit. Everything he does, let's erase it. Fuck this. This is garbage.
I couldn't
it's
believe
trash.
that.
He ruined comics in every way, shape, and form. And it was like, well, why do you say that? Deconstruction and this, and he fucked everything up, and he hates women, and he hates the queer. Yeah.
Whoa, what?
I'm like,
I muted that and left.
guy.
I was like, forget it.
Yeah, somebody. Is it a form of success to be that reviled in certain corners? Like, you live rent free in so many people's heads for the wrong reason. You're just like, you just gotta chalk it up, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, like Zack Snyder probably just like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm still being thought about. I guess that's cool.
good.
A ton of people like that, man.
Yeah.
Less talented than Bendis.
Yeah.
Agree.
So anyway, Secret Invasion Omnibus. If you can get your hands on it, it's out of print right now, but you can probably grab it on eBay like I did. Highly, highly recommend it. Super good, super fun story.
You don't think Marvel's going to put that back out now that the series is out? You would think.
The show is 3 episodes in, and there is no solicitations for a Secret Invasion Omnibus. That shit should have been out 2 months ago.
They reprinted the trade paperback earlier this year for the show.
Okay.
2, I don't understand the rhyme and reason as to what they do printed or reprint or not, because they printed New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis, Volume 1, which was like the first 35 issues or whatever.
Epic.
No, in an omnibus. There's a New Avengers omnibus.
I'm sorry.
Out of print, never did a Volume 2. Like that run should be like 6 volumes.
Yeah.
Never did a Volume 2. First volume's out of print. Okay. Nothing else. Like you'd think that would be the most popular, but it's not. And then you've got stuff like, I mean, God love it. I want to read it. Squirrel Girl gets a $150 50 issue omnibus, and you're like, all right. I mean, that's cool, but it seems like a no-brainer.
Well, to be fair,
have things
she
in print
has one
forever.
omnibus.
Well, no, I know, but still, to have certain things in print like that you could always give somebody versus.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
Because yes, as cool as the Squirrel Girl omnibus is, it's kind of niche.
Yeah.
Like especially like that demographic of readers, do they want a 15-pound giant book?
No, they don't.
So it seems kind of niche just to have that run versus like evergreen runs, like specific Spider-Man runs or specific Avengers runs and stuff. Yeah.
And then the other thing, I'm going to try to go real quick. Is the camera on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The one thing I had never read. I never saw Top Gun, is what I was saying. I never saw Top Gun. I made it about halfway through it, gave up, and that was me.
The original Top Gun.
A couple years ago, trying to I should watch the original Top Gun. Never saw it. And then for some reason, Oh, because every single person on the planet was like, Top Gun Maverick is the best movie of the year. And certain people I know, I think, saw it multiple times in the theater.
I saw it twice in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I was like, all right, I guess I'll fucking watch Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, yes, because now it's streaming, so it's easier.
So, yeah, man, we put it on, and that movie is wonderful. It's really, really fun. And the only question I'm left with is, why is Jennifer Connelly not everywhere all the time? I don't understand where her career is. She's so great and charming in everything she's in, and she's not in anything that I know of right now.
I don't know.
But yeah, what a fun. Did you see
I've not seen it.
Maverick?
No, I've not.
I saw it.
Yeah, tell us about it.
It's wonderful. It's like a perfectly constructed action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
It's a heist movie, isn't it?
a little
bit of it, yeah.
in a way. Like
Little
it's
bit, yeah.
structured like a heist
Oh my
movie.
God.
I don't know if we're gonna like
Spoil it.
competence porn, right?
Yeah.
Like watching incredibly capable people do what they're good at for
Right.
2 hours.
Mm.
The movie it's all hinges on an impossible mission that requires 4 jets. They introduce this to you in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and Maverick has to teach these cadets how to do it. And then at every act break, like the whole movie is basically just their training for this impossible mission. And at the end of every act break, they remind you what the exact plan is, and you're watching them fail at just the one bit.
There's like
it's
multiple parts.
It's hella
to
complicated. Yeah, it's like you have to go through this cavern at this speed at this level of the ground to not get radar. Or, but within 30 seconds.
Mm.
And then they're just practicing that and failing miserably. And then it's just like, well, I have to move to the next piece, the next piece. So the whole movie, you're constantly reminded what the point of this all is. So by the time they're actually in the mission, you are so into it because the movie doesn't remind you if they're failing or passing. It's just you're aware and you're in it. So it was just it's constructed like math. The movie is like it shouldn't work because it's so formulaic, but because it's earnest and well done, you're like this
and
is like a perfect movie.
It draws on relationships from the previous film.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of drama where that's concerned with Iceman. Val Kilmer's character shows up, and of course, the love interest with Jennifer Connelly, and
who wasn't in the first movie.
But she was mentioned. She was mentioned as his previous girlfriend.
Right.
In
the general's daughter. Or
yeah,
yeah.
And then also, you know what happened to was it Goose? Yeah, and then Goose's kid is in it. So there's that whole drama of like,
Right.
oh, you got my dad killed. Cool beans.
So you haven't seen the first one yet. You don't have to.
Right. I kind of want to because I enjoyed this one so much, though. I kind of want to.
What I hear,
It's very dated.
it's dated, and it's a different type of
It
movie.
is.
Yeah.
Because the reason I never got into the whole Top Gun thing is that it's very jingoistic, and like I'm
It's super rah rah.
and I was not for that, and I'm certainly not now.
Yeah.
It's in the 80s, and especially like the mid 80s, it is very much like super American might.
America,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Yeah, unironically too.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
on a surface level, they are just very sunshine and grittiness and cool people being cool.
Yeah.
But there's literally nothing under the surface.
Oh, okay.
No.
So
And they don't really
All right.
like most of the appeal of Top Gun is the charming actors and the action.
Yeah.
But anything below that is just kind of like
eh.
it's very dated. Whereas this new one, it's got a lot more meat and it's a much better film.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Well, maybe
so
I don't have
like
to worry about it.
you
Nah.
already like they do all the work of like introducing you to this world and introducing you to everyone's previous interactions. You're fine.
Yeah.
Right on.
It's
Okay.
Yeah, it's very
Right on.
standalone. Not unlike the movie we're talking about tonight.
Oh my God. Do you mean? Oh wait. I watched the first Top Gun movie a few months ago. Says Robert Monroe Jr. I couldn't believe how bad it was, but I could see how it was popular at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much at the time. I agree with that. Now, a movie that I think of by his I mean the Tom Cruise,
The Thomas.
that came around the same time, but I think ages better was Days of Thunder.
Oh, I've never
I
seen
forgot
that
about
one.
Days of Thunder.
It is only
Forgot
about
that
NASCAR or just
Yeah.
like the drama of NASCAR.
Yeah.
The racing is cool as shit, and it apparently is like has nothing to do with actually how NASCAR works, so it's enjoyable.
Hold on
Yeah.
a second. I'm sorry, I'm having a flashback. What is the movie about NASCAR driving that somehow involves time travel? Blackjack? Flapjacks?
Oh, Free Jack.
Free Jack.
Free Jack.
Free Jack. What
That
is
was
that?
first of
What am
all, it was Formula One racing.
Oh, I don't. Wait, is
sec-
that not NASCAR?
No.
No.
I don't know the difference.
Second of all, the racing had nothing to do with the time travel.
Uh-huh.
It was just Emilio Estevez was a race car driver,
Yeah.
and someone from the future who wants to get with his fiance at the time snatches him from the time stream right before he gets killed in a car accident that he knew was going to happen.
Oh.
So now Emilio Estevez is in the future 20 years later with a still hot Rene Russo.
No, it's Rene Russo.
And the bad guy is Anthony Hopkins, and his henchman is Mick Jagger.
I
This
wanna-
movie exists,
I
everyone.
wanna
It's
see
called
that.
Free Jack.
Yeah.
I've seen it 1,000 times because it was one of those movies that I would rent it constantly. I don't know why. Like,
Yeah.
as a 10-year-old, I was just like, this movie's awesome.
Free Jack.
Free Jack.
Is it possible that Free Jack is the movie that Brad Pitt is watching from the couch when he's playing Floyd in True Romance?
I don't remember True Romance enough.
Someone let me know. Eddie Madison says, howdy, y'all. Howdy, Eddie Madison.
Hey, Eddie.
All right, so main review, we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, directed by James Mangold, starring Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, and Boyd Holbrook. Daredevil archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary dial that can change the course of history. Accompanied by his goddaughter, he soon finds himself squaring off against Jürgen Voller, a former Nazi who works for NASA. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Indiana Jones franchise itself,
Okay.
and then we will give our thoughts on Dial of Destiny,
Okay.
and then we're going to let you know when we get to spoilers.
Can we add a ranking in there?
Oh, fuck yeah.
All right.
At the end.
After
should we do
spoilers.
Should we do it after spoilers or right before spoilers?
I don't fucking know.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, you're going to talk about the whole franchise before this movie.
All right, then we'll do it at
How
the
about,
end.
yeah, let's
Put your rankings in the chat.
Let's just talk about Dial of. How about we just talk about Dial of Destiny and then we'll do the whole ranking? Or do you want to? I don't fucking care. We should have planned this out beforehand.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
No.
Let's do the thing I said. So, Indiana Jones, I grew up watching, I think one of the very first movies I ever saw was Return of the Jedi, and the other one was Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still remember walking out of the theater with my moms and coming out of the Temple of Doom movie and just loving the shit out of that movie. And I absolutely loved it. And I went back and we had the VHS eventually of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which for those who younger viewers was not called Indiana Jones. It was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I totally forgot that. And then we had Temple of Doom, and then we had
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade. I loved every single one of those movies. I can't say like I was buying the comic books, or I don't even know if
I think there was a series. Wasn't
there was a
like
Marvel series.
Right. But wasn't there like a TV series, like an animated
There
series?
was there
Young
was
Adventures of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
animated series.
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, there was a Young Indiana Jones,
Right.
which I imagine came out after
Crusade.
Crusade. Yeah, Last Crusade. But I can't. I don't think I ever had like a T-shirt or an action figure or stuff like that.
mhm.
But I just loved watching those movies, and I'm pretty sure I probably watched them with my grandpa, like on Sundays as well. So I grew a long time indie fan. What was your experience?
I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater.
Uh-huh.
Loved everything about the movie until it gets to the end, and then people started melting, and it has traumatized me for the rest
Oh
of
my
my
God,
life.
that's right. You can watch a previous episode called Trauma, Childhood Trauma, where Len walks us through that particular nightmare of his.
Tell us your least favorite melted face.
Anyway,
Was it Voller? Was it the?
I love
Moloch?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
me-
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Since you were around before it,
Mhm.
was there hubbub going into it? Like, I know he played Han Solo. Was he as big a name for anything else besides?
No. Han Solo is the movie that put Harrison Ford on the map.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I understand. But like, going into this movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, before, upon its release, was it just like, oh, Han Solo's in this?
No, the whole thing about the whole hype, whatever hype about Raiders of the Lost Ark that I have to remember because I was still kind of young, was the fact that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were combining to do this movie that harkened back to their youth when they would go to the movies and watch the serials.
Which is exactly what he did with Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah. So it's another one of those.
And now the fact that he brought in Harrison Ford, people were like, okay, that makes sense because it's an actor you've worked with. Yeah. But Harrison Ford was still, while he definitely was a name and gave it a certain level of cachet because people did like him, he wasn't the selling point. The selling point was Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Then when you saw the movie, you were like, oh, Harrison Ford on his own without having to, walk around with Chewbacca and rescue Luke. Harrison Ford is the man. He is the hero we have been waiting for.
Awesome.
And I enjoyed every one of those movies. I saw that in the theaters. I saw Temple of Doom in the theaters. I love Temple of Doom. It's a movie that you kind of watch with a crooked eye nowadays, but at the time you loved it. But you definitely sense the difference. Like, ooh, this one feels a little
darker.
Yeah, it's a little
angrier. This one.
Which, then Last Crusade, which brings in Sean Connery, who at that time, Sean Connery is on his maybe his second or third renaissance of his career as like this older gentleman. And I just loved it. And I liked Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is not a person who I would ever say is my absolute favorite actor in the world. But I find myself enjoying a lot of Harrison Ford movies because he does not let you down.
No, I 100% agree. Even to this day, before this movie dropped, and he's in what's that Apple Plus show?
Shrinking.
And it's a whole nother avenue of him that I kind of never saw or forgot existed, of like him just being funny.
He doesn't show it often. Well, he doesn't do a lot of comedies.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm looking it up. Indiana Jones in comic books.
Yeah.
From like 83 to 2008, variously, because Marvel had it until like 96. And then Dark Horse had it until like 2010.
Got it. Yeah.
And they were doing some adaptations of the movies.
Yeah.
But there was like a bunch of comics done by people like Walt Simonson, John Byrne, Archie Goodwin, Howard Chaykin.
I think Walt Simonson may have done
David
the original.
Michelin.
David Michelini?
There's a ton.
Are they available?
No.
Probably
of course not.
No.
I used to have some in my back issue bin, and someone came in and scooped them all up a couple months back.
No. I had the original adaptation.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Getting the shitty paperback omnibuses, which aren't even like full sized, are hundreds of dollars each.
Bummer.
Yeah,
but I mean, doesn't Marvel own Disney now and the rights to all these things?
They should. Cool if they.
They just reprinted the fucking Planet of the Apes comics. Like, why shouldn't they? Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry. Get on it, Marvel.
Well, so what was your experience with Indy?
These are the earliest movies I ever watched.
Yeah.
This is lumped in with Star Wars and Ghostbusters and eventually the various Batman movies.
80s classics.
Yeah. These are movies that I would watch sometimes behind a pillow, but they would always be on. Yeah. Because they're cute. Fucking frightening.
Yeah.
And I've watched them hundreds of times, but we haven't watched them. I'm even a bit of an apologist for the Crystal Skull, Kidding with the Crystal Skull, because I enjoy these characters. I had a good time, but I hadn't watched any of them in like maybe a decade, at least all of them. It's been a long time since I even saw Raiders all the way through. But like when you've seen these movies so many times, you know every beat.
Yeah.
So it's almost like listening to an album by track or track here and there instead of listening to the whole album.
Yeah.
Because it's just a different experience. So like with these movies that are so ingrained in my brain, you could fully recall full scenes or you just like go to a clip or whatever. But it's been a long time since I actually just listened to the whole album as intended.
Yeah.
So I went back this past weekend because my wife had never seen all of them, or at least she didn't think she saw all of them. And Friday night we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark. Saturday, all day, we watched the other three. Until like 4 a.m.
Wow.
Because it really was just like we'll watch a little bit of the next one.
Yeah, right.
Fall right into it.
All of a sudden
we'll
it's
watch a little
over,
into the next one. Fall right into it. And they're just delightfully watchable movies. Even the one that's terrible. They're just delightfully watchable.
Which one is that?
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Actually,
Crystal Skull. Okay.
If anything, my experience with them has changed slightly.
Oh.
Really?
In this rewatch. Yeah, Temple of Doom's really not that good.
No. I had the exact same situation. I did not get to Crystal Skull.
It used to be my favorite.
Well, it was mine because the first one I ever saw.
It is not my favorite anymore.
And watching it today, you said with a crooked eye. Hot damn, man. Just right off I think I tweeted like, oh, I'm starting Temple of Doom. Immediately annoying that this movie is so annoying and bad. Well, there are things like slight racism.
Slight.
Racism. And Kate Capshaw's character, Willie, is just unbearable. And she's written to be that way. Obviously, it's not like I blame Kate Capshaw, but like, I think her one note that they gave her at the end of every scene to redo it was like, scream more. Just louder screams, shriek if you can.
Yeah, it
was her entire character. It's awful. And
I forgot how. I remembered how silly some parts are, but I forgot how, like, as a whole, how silly the movie is.
Yeah.
And I love silly shit, but because it was insufferable at the same time as being silly, I just had less of a tolerance for it.
Yeah.
Like, sure, they jumped out of an airplane with a inflatable boat, and everything's cool.
And they landed on a mountain.
And then down a river, and then off the waterfall.
They ran down the mountain in it, and then went off the mountain into a river.
Normally, if I'm having fun, normally I would not like stop and be like, would that actually work? But both Sam and Matt were both like, would that actually? I mean, if you kept it straight, I guess, and it's low enough to I guess. But like we were just bored enough to bother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I gotta be honest with you, the fridge scene in Crystal Skull, I wasn't bored enough to really like look into lead lined, the impact, the concussion. It's fine.
I haven't seen that movie since the theater, but upon watching that movie, and they do the fridge scene, I was like, what is happening? Are you kidding me? What is happening in this movie?
The only thing that I questioned was him being able to get out of the fridge, because most of them usually locked inside. Like, there's no way to get out.
Right. That's the part.
That's the only thing that I was down with all of it, and they did, like, you know, Mr. Spielbergo, literally showed like the quick insert shot of like lead lined, like the old school refrigerators. I was like, this is funny. It's gonna go flying. Yeah. It does, and then it just pops open. I was like, it probably wouldn't pop open.
Yeah. And also, he would be dead inside.
Well, he was so small.
It was very
maybe
tiny.
Not.
Yeah.
It's the same type of shit. Like if Iron Man is in the iron suit, he would be a soup of organs because it
the way
every
it gets
hit,
jostled around.
right, yeah.
Right.
So like you can't go with one over the other.
Right.
Like the suspension of disbelief is I am inside this thing and I get like he there wasn't enough space in there for him to literally get smacked around each side.
Mm-hmm.
He was just in it.
Plus, like
it's more believable than the fucking raft out of the sky.
I actually gave it the whole idea of it popping open a pass because it's not like it was just standing there and popped open. It did fly through the air, landed. Yeah. So it survived a nuclear explosion. Yeah. So if it maybe popped open after that, I gave it a pass. That scene, as much as I know people hate that scene, I 100% don't mind that scene at all. Okay. Never have. Because I recognized that movie is, while trying to a bit continue the tradition of like the serial films of the time, it is also trying to wrap itself in the genre of sci-fi movies of the time.
See, yeah.
And that is the type of shit that would happen
I'd
in
say
those movies.
It just needed big ants.
It is very pulpy.
Oh, it had big ants.
Well, they were just larger.
Yeah,
but
they were
I
just
don't mean
larger.
giant ants, but I mean it's funny they still had big ants.
Back to Temple of Doom.
Oh yeah.
Oof. It is such a annoying movie, but the last act is so fucking baller.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like everything from, and I think you had a problem. Like you didn't have a problem with. You were just kind of bored by the mining scene.
All right, guys.
Everything from Indy being the blood of Kali
A
on
Numshakad.
is just balls to the wall fun.
Yeah,
I had so
and
much fun with
everybody
that.
has the member berries for Short Round.
Yeah.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you
he's the
cannot
best
like,
character in that movie.
cannot
Sure,
like.
yeah.
He's the
love
best
him.
character in that movie.
For
Right.
sure.
Them playing poker while Willie's
Yeah, yeah.
being having a conniption fit. Best scene.
That was his what would you call it? His when the actor
Kiwi Kwan?
audition. That was his audition.
Oh yeah.
Was that scene? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. But then I got to
Last Crusade.
Last Crusade, and you know what a dumb shit I am. It didn't occur to me till last week
Mm-hmm.
that the Last Crusade wasn't the name of the movie. It's the fact that it was a crusade to find the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Right.
And because they
It was a
found
reference to the actual Crusades, and this was
because
the
they
Last
found
You never
Crusade.
made that
Last
connection.
one.
because they found the Holy Grail.
But then
You don't need any more crusades
But
because you
then
got it.
thematically, it's also his father's life dream. His one
His last.
crusade.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
yeah.
in my head, it was just like, oh, they're saying that it's like the last Indiana Jones movie.
And that's you never
That's
went
all
any
I got
further.
out of it. That's all I got. And then this week, I was like, I tell my wife, hey, honey. Oh, you know what I just discovered in my brain?
There is
A thought.
there's the discourse online about Raiders of the Lost Ark that like
Is there discourse?
Yes. There's discourse everywhere
That's
about
true,
everything. Indiana Jones does not affect the plot of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
True.
I think that was the what was it? The Cracked podcast first did that. Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, like he just everything happens
Whether or not
irregardless
he's
of
there.
him as a
Yeah.
person. Like he just either speeds it up or slows it down slightly, but it's just he has no effect on the plot. And then at the end they're just literally passengers.
Yeah.
Mm.
The second one, he's got a little bit more agency, but the third one I think I like more, not more than Raiders, but almost a little bit.
I kind of do like it more than Raiders.
I shine a little bit more towards it
Yeah.
because he's actually solving puzzles at the end and doing.
Yeah.
He's doing the work at
Penitent
the end.
men shall pass.
I before I even knew what the word penitent meant,
Mhm.
I actually had that in my like
Penitent
as a
man
kid.
shall pass.
The penitent man should pass. The penitent man.
Yeah.
It,
Same,
yeah,
same.
I think the third one is narratively is the strongest of the three.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason it ekes out over Raiders for me is just because of the relationship between him and his dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is endlessly entertaining. If there was a whole nother movie of them hanging out, I would watch it.
I also think just like, yes, that relationship, but I think just the relationships overall, like even his relationship with his friends that there are
Marcus
more
is the
fully
best.
formed.
Marcus.
Yeah. It's more fully formed in
Yeah.
Last Crusade. That's
For sure.
definitely my favorite.
And then Crystal Skull.
And
which
I
we
did
can all
not
talk about
revisit that
being-
yet. I
it's
want
great.
to.
It's great.
Yeah, I want to look at it with fresh eyes now that I'm in like indie mode. You know?
It's early 2000s, 2008. The CG looks
Yes.
like CG.
Yes.
I mean,
And not in
in
not
this
in
movie, it looks like
not in like a that's a digital effect that's a little off kind of way, in so much as the way that the movie is just the whole color palette
Yeah.
is so toned out, vibrant that it all looks unreal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the jungles look so green that they've never looked before, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like the whole movie kind of has a sheen to it,
Mm.
which maybe is a 1950s kind of. That's a stretch. Just like going with that, and then also there is no forgiveness for the monkey swinging scene.
No.
I forgive so
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
but that
I
move
hate that
that
scene so
that
much.
scene literally takes you completely out of the plot.
It
Like I know
does.
they were trying to like narratively find a way to get him back into the action,
Yeah.
but just like one insert shot of him seeing that there's like a shortcut through the jungle.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah,
that?
that's so bad.
Instead of swinging on vines with a bunch of capuchin monkeys.
Yeah.
That was really bad.
It's not It's not good.
I concur, Doctor. All right, so
Yeah.
watching those first 3 movies, I was primed. I was ready to go to this movie. I went in. I was a little nervous because I do remember my thoughts as I was watching the previous movie. And, you know, the fact that Harrison Ford is a little older.
80 years old.
And I do remember thinking he looked like a bag of bones in the last movie 15 years ago. And now he's even older. Bonier?
More bag-a-bony?
He's
more baggy.
like he was like he's the something that an archaeologist might find instead of being the actual archaeologist. But I gotta say, top to bottom, this was a blast. I had such a good time with this movie. I was in full Indiana Jones fever. I was really feeling all of it. Like, yes, the CGI is rough in the first 15, 20 minutes.
It was long. 20 minutes?
Young Indiana Jones.
The episode of a TV show that happens before the main plot kicks in.
It's a little rough CG wise, but other than that, I enjoyed all the characters. I loved all of the relationships. The introduction of Shaw. What is her first name?
Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Helena Shaw.
Helena. Yeah, Helena Shaw. I loved her as a. I don't want to call her a foil for him, but
No, she's kind of a foil for him.
In the beginning.
Like an anti-hero, a foil. Yeah.
And she goes through her own stuff and her own
Definitely has an arc.
Character arc. She's a different person by the end of the movie than she was when we meet her.
Yeah.
And I just was in all the way for this movie. I'm not going to go see it again in the theater, but I am really excited for like a box set to come out or maybe to watch it digitally when it hits in like probably 3 days, depending on now
Box office.
Yeah. What did you think, Len?
I went in really wanting to love this movie. I did not.
And then you did.
I did not love it.
Sure.
I liked it well enough. It's well enough. It's a appropriate and good send off for the character because you didn't want him to leave with the stink of Crystal Skull on him.
Yeah.
You watch yourself. The stink.
So
The mild pungent odor.
Okay, all right. Okay.
You know, like
all right.
a hard
the
stink.
musk.
Yeah.
The musk.
You could use a shower, but you're fine
For now.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like you're a dirtbag.
Yeah.
Like there's two
All
different
right.
levels.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go on.
Anyway, but yeah, but I liked it well enough. I'm a huge fan of Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yeah, man, me too.
And this did nothing to
Dissuade you?
This not at all because I enjoyed her in the movie.
Yeah. She was Phoebe Waller-Bridge all over the place.
I enjoyed them giving you 21st century edition of Short Round in this movie.
Yeah. Not as charming, this kid.
Not as charming as this.
I forgot his name.
I also I'm also a fan of Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he is misused. In
Really?
This movie.
Oh.
Not necessarily miscast because I think he can play every villain in the world. But I think he's misused in this. I think he's wasted in the movie
Really?
a little bit.
Wow.
And I have problems with the CG. But I have problems with the CG overall. I have problems with the photography, the cinematography. I have problems with the length of this movie. This movie is freaking long.
It is the longest of all the Joneses.
For no reason.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with Harrison Ford, though. I give him a pass because he is in fact an 80-year-old man doing these things. But you sign the check to do the work, and I don't think he's giving. Like, I don't feel like he's like.
Oh, okay.
I feel like he's lifted up by what is around him.
Oh, no shit.
Phoebe
Okay.
Waller-Bridge, mostly in their scenes.
He was biking 40 miles a day to get in shape for this movie.
God bless him. Look, for 80 years old, the man looks good for 80 years old. I'm not knocking him. And there definitely is a sweetheart of a scene at the end of this movie that you've been waiting for the whole movie. It's kind of like there were visual clues that that was coming, and I was glad that they fulfilled it.
I cried at the end of this movie.
But at the end of the day, like I said, I liked it well enough. I didn't love it like I wanted to, but that's fine. It was cool.
All right on. No.
I didn't love it as much as you did, but I did really like it. I had a good time. The opening, when we walked out, it was just felt really good about it. Had a really good time, but honestly, the beginning did kind of throw me off.
The first thing you said to me, I think, was they should have recast it.
Yeah, I miss just recasting young actors.
Yeah.
Just a young actor. Like in the 80s and 90s, everyone was fine.
Just cast
with context clues. Alden Ehrenreich. Yeah, the guy that played him in
No,
Solo.
I was gonna say River Phoenix.
He's dead.
Yeah.
It's real poor taste.
Oh, sorry. Too soon?
Too soon.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, no, I do miss just like physical space. Like it is very impressive. Like I just watched the new episode of Secret Invasion. Nick Fury looks great de-aged. Even in Captain Marvel, he looks great de-aged.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well,
how this
okay,
looks now.
so I'm gonna make an assumption here from what I read. What I read from Harrison Ford during an interview was the way that they did his digital de-aging specifically in this movie was because he has worked with Lucasfilm and I don't know, whoever the production companies are for so long, for so many decades. They have miles and miles of unused footage and actual footage that are in the films, and they were able to use that footage in a technological advancement that I don't
reference,
know.
They built an AI. Harrison Ford is what you're talking about.
Maybe. I don't know if I would call it AI, but like, yeah, they were able to use previous footage of him to create this, as opposed to
maybe like a digital double. Then not maybe because it doesn't think itself. I get it, but like it's a full CGI that they just created.
Yeah, but I mean, there's an actor in there.
Yeah,
well, it's Harrison Ford. That's the problem.
Well,
no,
not all the time.
Just the dialogue, or maybe when he's sitting down and
okay. Well, I'm saying
chip.
some of the movements, it is 80-year-old Harrison.
Yeah. There's a couple of times when it's just like, he's a little shrugged. He's like,
right.
Yeah,
that's him.
My favorite is the very first time he opens his mouth is he's got young face, but old voice. There's an 80-year-old voice coming out of that 40-year-old man.
As really cool as the technology is, I honestly don't think it's there to hold me for 20 minutes without constantly knowing that's fake. That's fake. That's fake. Oh, that's fake. There's some, as cool as some of these sequences are. First, it was a banger, couple of really great fights.
Yeah.
Classic indie stuff where he's just like by the skin of his teeth being kind of getting. They do this thing that they do throughout the whole series where he kind of gets away, but then he's in a worse spot.
Yeah.
But then he kind of gets away from that, but then he's in a worse spot.
Yeah.
Like, I got in the car. It's actually the car that the head Nazis are in, so I have to pretend it's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I got out of the car, but they have a Gatling gun, so I have to figure that out. It's all indie, but there are some pieces of it that are, there's so many digital components. I'm watching a cutscene from a video game.
Yeah.
And I could not let that go. Because there are a bunch of physical pieces, but then there's some where there's no physical pieces at all, like when he's being strung up and the bomb goes off.
Yeah.
All of that looked so uncanny valley that it just, I would have just cut that. Like, just put him on the train.
Yeah.
That whole 10 minutes before, why?
Yeah.
But I feel like they stretched it out and indulged it. But besides that, I enjoyed this. It was fun.
Yeah.
Like the car chases and stuff. There were ways to put him in the action without making it unrealistic and breaking him. Do you know what I mean? Like the trolley car chases, I could totally oversee a jump from one car to another.
Yeah.
You could pull that off. Or on a horse, you could pull that off. That's fine. But like the digital doubles on top of trains at night that just don't look real.
That's what I want to talk about. Actually, that's the thing that frustrated me about this was literally watching The Last Crusade, and there is an extended sequence. The cold open is young Indiana Jones, basically, and it's River Phoenix playing young Harrison Ford, and it is delightful. I understand why they made a TV show out of it. And there's a sequence on a train in daytime, and the camera is here, and it's a wide shot, and you see the whole train, and you can see the kid or the kid's stunt kid getting up and running along the top and then jumping over and then sliding down into this and crawling through that and then getting up. And it's like this whole family circus kind of thing as you're watching him do it. And then in this movie, it's just like a little CGI guy going boopity 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 boop, and it's so bad.
Having not seen the new Mission Impossible movie, but I've seen the trailers. There's a train sequence, and there's people on top of a speeding train doing things.
Wait, again?
Yeah.
Because that's the first movie.
All CG.
Yeah.
But there's a sense of physical space and uneven ground and movement.
Yeah.
Whereas this was just like anybody could just walk up on that train and have a good time and not really worry about it. Like, woohoo! Like there's when you do like full CGI components or stuff like that, like you have to still ground it.
Yeah.
And most of that sequence
Not so
felt
much.
airy.
Yeah.
Not so much, you know?
Yeah.
And as much as I was enjoying myself, it was like a 5-minute span of it, and all of a sudden maybe like just the silhouette of the guy running on the train just took me right out.
Yeah, same.
And then took me right out.
I
Like,
just wonder. I felt the same way about that. Me and you talked about that a couple of days ago. Yeah, I hated that moment. It took me out of the movie. And I don't know how much of that is the fault of James Mangold as
or
the
just
director
the effects team.
or the effects team.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it has to land at the director's feet because he's the person that's putting this movie together.
Yeah.
Right. So that was one of the big things that I missed watching this movie. The joy of the first 3 films, and maybe it is also a byproduct of when they were done, is that it is all practical effects.
Yeah.
You make the stuff happen, right? And
You melt a candle that looks like a face. Yeah. It was just a candle, Len. It wasn't a real man.
God,
it was a man in a candle.
gonna get you for that.
It was a mandel.
And anyway, Crystal Skull, I think one of the reasons why that movie doesn't land for me a little bit, even though I liked it well enough, is because it is the first indie film that has CGI effects.
Yeah.
And you feel the difference in it. And then this movie has so much. The face thing, it didn't really bother me that much. I agree. I probably would have recast, especially considering that it is going to be freaking 20 minutes. It's not like
too long.
Because in Last Crusade, River Phoenix is on screen for a good bit himself.
Yeah.
You know, at least 10, 12 minutes.
But I do understand not making that decision because I'm sure it was a conversation. But the fact that we already grew up watching a 40-year-old Harrison Ford, and now we're flashbacking to that time and having another actor play 40-year-old Harrison Ford.
No. I get.
I understand the hesitation there.
I get. Especially if the technology exists where you think you might be able to pull it off. And to be fair, I think for the most part they do pull it off.
Yeah,
but
it's so close. I think.
That notwithstanding, there are other moments where this film, you know, relies on a lot of CG effects that just take me out of the movie. And there are some scenes where my point about the cinematography, it just doesn't feel done right. It just doesn't feel well. It doesn't feel like it's put together. Like some of the scenes they feel very, very inauthentic. They feel like almost, they feel like they're on a stage, and perhaps they were, but like I never would always like immediately get that feel that you're on a stage.
Yeah.
That was the other thing about Crystal Skull. You definitely feel when you're on a stage in there, and you didn't feel like that in Raiders.
I did. I literally said out loud when they get to the spot where like they're gonna open the ark and they just go over this little thing, and there's just like, I'm like, oh, look at that set. That's a cute set.
I mean, I guess you do a little bit, but I guess.
But the rest is like, it feels like you're in another country because they are.
Yeah, right. I maybe it's again a combination of the cinematography, the world building that is set up. I felt it very harshly in Crystal Skull, and not quite as harshly, but I still felt that in this.
Was there a particular during the chase scene?
I mean, during that car chase scene,
those cars,
like scooter trolleys.
Yeah. Golf carts.
So this is the first Indiana Jones movie not directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
James Mangold.
Spielberg and Mangold shoot completely differently. Mangold's action usually is a lot more close-ups and quick shots, whereas Spielberg does a lot of wides and a lot of like medium shots.
Shows you the world.
See it.
Yeah. Which I prefer.
But you can't really get away with that as much in digital spaces.
That's the thing.
So it's because they do it in Crystal Skull. So there's that chase sequence that eventually ends up being the fucking swinging. Two boat trucks, jeeps next to each other on two separate trails, and they're fighting each other through it.
Yeah.
Such a dumb scene.
All wide shots, and they do their best to kind of like at least show you like the topography of the area and the whole thing, so you're following the whole time. This one's a little bit more scattershot with all of its action. So yeah, it's a completely different kind of like visual language.
Yeah.
So yeah, because Mangold's great.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just he's not
mind him as a
Spielberg.
director,
No
but
one's
it's just-
Spielberg. It's not the same.
Yeah. In the chat, we got, let's see, Eddie Madison saying Shia LaBeouf deserves better, which we will talk
get to
about in
spoilers.
spoilers. He saw Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny, was very good. And, click the like. Thank you. Joining tonight, Jane Z says, tonight. Dane, what'd I say?
You said Jane.
Sorry. Dane Z. I know you, Dane. I'm sorry.
Zane D.
Joining late tonight, saw Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. It's probably my third or fourth favorite out of the franchise. Agree with Noel that the intro scene was too long. Do you think they should have recast Harrison Ford?
Well, I like your point though.
Your point is valid.
like we have seen as viewers, we've seen him at that age. However, write and shoot around it.
Yeah.
Like, did it have to be full close-up dialogue scenes of the digital mouth?
Right.
Or you could kind of like shorten, tighten, right around reaction shots, off-camera dialogue. You could have done.
Right.
Yeah, you
I would have
worked.
noticed that stuff just as much as I'm noticing.
I would
the
have
CG.
noticed it, but it wouldn't have taken me out.
Yeah.
Like it would have been like, oh, that's clever
It's
how
like,
they did that.
you
Not
know, where they always-
that's not that.
There's been so many movies where they want to have the president of the United States, but they don't want to actually have the president of the United States, or like